Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the Gedling series. This is a small district to the east of Nottingham and it only has 12 of them. Mind you, it's got some belters. Let's take a look. Welcome back to Gedling once again, people. Now this is a very small village. You don't get a lot of village for your buck in this place. This one's all about water and the company that supplies this area's water, Severn Trent. Welcome to Stoke Bardolph. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Stoke Bardolph, stake of the axe wolf. Water, we all need it to survive, but just how important is it when it's no longer needed? Here in Stoke Bardolph, we're about to find out. This one has a very interesting name. In essence, it's Anglo Saxon in origin, Stoke being the word Stoc, which means a fortified place defended by stakes. It takes its adjunctive name from the Bardolph family, early lords of the place, who possessed a fortified castle here. Bardolph is Germanic and literally means axe wolf, and I have to say, when you throw it together, stake of the axe wolf sounds straight up cool. The Bardolph family were connected with the area until the late 15th century and they occupied a moated manor house close to the Trent. Stoke Bardolph sits on the western bank of that river and it's famed for very little in comparison to its near neighbours. For well over a century, Stoke Bardolph has been the place upon which a whole heap of Nottinghamshire sewage has been dumped. And yes, that pun was very much intended. Severn Trent Water own most of the farmland in the area, and they even use sludge from the massive sewage treatment works within the parish as fertiliser. No wonder the land is so good for crops. Surprisingly though, this one's rather pretty, and it doesn't smell either. Let's go and check it out. We start on a footpath which runs past the biggest landmark in Stoke Bardolph, the sewage works. This is actually only part of it, but it's perhaps the most important bit. You're looking at an anaerobic digestion plant used to treat sewage sludge, which is then spread on the land around the village. It's operated by Severn Trent, who have used this process for treating sewage on all of their sites since the 1950s. This plant also produces biomethane using the gas produced by the digestion process. This is then supplied to the national gas network. If you follow the path beyond the sewage works, you find yourself alongside a substantial stream. In fact, there are water channels all around the area. There's one in particular that we can get close to, a man-made channel which transports treated water from the plant into the Trent. As we follow this to the river, let's talk about how Stoke Bardolph ended up with a sewage works in the first place. It all goes back to the 1870s when parts of Nottingham suffered greatly with a polluted water supply. It was a direct consequence of discharging raw sewage into the River Trent. In 1872, Marriott Ogle Tarbotton, the borough engineer for Nottingham, became sewerage board engineer. His answer to the pollution problem was to lease 638 acres of agricultural land at Stoke Farm, near the church. It was known to have good drainage, meaning sewage could be spread over the land where it seeped into the soil. The farm produced milk from cattle who grazed on that same land, making it almost self-sufficient. Stoke Farm works were built in 1880, but additional land was soon required for the farm's needs, and that's where Bulcote came in. In 1902, additional land was purchased at Bulcote, and the model farm, which we drove to in that episode, was built. It was designed to house the equipment, animals and workforce that dealt with the sewage at Stoke Bardolph. Around 140 horses and over 100 workmen worked the two farms together. By the end of the 20th century, the dairy herd had grown to over 600 beasts, but in 2008 it was deemed uneconomic and sold. What was once 2,000 acres of grazing land and sewage beds now produces energy crops, mainly maize. The sewage works that stand here today are not the original Stoke works either. They were built in 1928, replacing the original works near the church. That's enough about sewage now. The River Trent is really pretty at this point, wouldn't you agree? Tony was of that opinion, it seemed, according to his bench, right on the riverbank. At this point on the river you'll find a pub, the Ferry Boat. This was formerly a fair and square pub and a restaurant, which has now been rebranded as a Hungry Horse. It gets its name thanks to an ancient ferry whose records go back to 1275. It ran to Shelford on the opposite bank of the River Trent. In the 19th century, the publicans of the ferryboat inn, the Cupids, operated the boat themselves. Around the back of the pub is a football stadium. This belongs to Gedling FC, a local youth team which is run entirely by volunteers. This club was in the news recently following a devastating act of vandalism at their clubhouse. Thousands of pounds worth of damage was caused by thieves who broke into the clubhouse on a Saturday night and stole a number of items. It just goes to show, nothing's sacred these days. Over the road is a turning circle and a bus stop. However, it appears there are no buses that actually stop here these days. Now at the bus's turning circle there's a lane which goes off alongside the river down here, and it runs all the way to a lock. I'm not about to go down there because it would take me away from the village, and we're sort of heading into the village now to talk about Stoke Bardolph itself. I'm not going to leave the lock out though. Here's a bit about it by way of some pictures I found on the good old interwebs. This is Stoke Lock on the River Trent, located in a very rural spot to the southeast of the village. It's by no means as important or as well known as the one at Gunthorpe further downstream, but still provides some facilities for boaters. Here you'll find Stoke Bardolph moorings, which has space for up to 3 large vessels on the southeast side of the lock next to a bypass weir. In contrast to Gunthorpe, Stoke Lock is much quieter. Its tranquility is aided by the nearby Stoke Woods, a mature woodland planted just after the lock was built in 1927, which creates an excellent site for both walkers and nature lovers. There are also some fascinating conservation projects taking place in the area too, and visitors can discover more from an on-site interpretation panel and listing post. It's worth a visit all in all, but it would have taken me away from the route. So let's go back to the village. So now we're going to see what the village is like. In the post-medieval period, long before the sewage works arrived, the village was very agricultural. The Bardolph family were once lords of the manor and occupied a moated manor house near the river until at least 1539. They held a prominent place in the front ranks of English nobility, as all readers of Shakespeare's Henry IV will likely remember. It wasn't until 1883 when Stoke Bardolph obtained a school, a public elementary, which accommodated 60 children. This is that building. At that time, the village was described as a township within the parish of Gedling. It had 38 houses, a post office, and of course, the ferry. It also had this church. There may have been a church in Stoke Bardolph since at least the time of Doomsday, but that has never been confirmed. Dedicated to St Luke, the current building is a simple rectangle, 33 feet long and 21 feet wide, with a single bell housed in a turret at the western end. It was built in 2 stages, with the main section dating from 1844 and an extension to the chancel which was added in 1910. In 1948, its rector was Thomas Arnold Lee, who later became a canon of Southall in 1955. This church didn't hold a licence for weddings until 1965. It would have been good to get a look inside this one and see what's there, but despite this sign on the door offering us a warm country welcome, it was locked. No matter though, I was still able to hold the camera up to the glass in the window so you can see all the interior fittings. Now we've come around a corner onto the village green at Stanhope Crescent. There's a few minor features here, typical of a rural Nottinghamshire locale. Check out this lovely piece of yarn bombing which invites you to share on a Facebook page if you like it. The red phone box behind it has no phone, but it does have a defib machine. The village sign is behind both of those things. It was erected in 2012 for the Queen's Diamond Jubilee. And the village centre is also marked by a Nottinghamshire flag, which waves proudly over the parish notice board, which I duly left a card on. 7 to go. Stoke Bardolph Village Hall next. This has been part of the community for more than 100 years. It was provided by the Nottingham Corporation when they bought the Stoke Farm estate. Severn Trent Water later extended it, but due to lack of maintenance it closed in 2016. However, after standing empty for years, it's soon to reopen thanks to a no-cost renovation by Persimmon Homes. After the village hall, the road becomes entirely residential and rounds a bend towards the sewage works again. Here's a montage of what's left as we make our way back to the start. Now before we leave Stoke Bardolph behind, we have some industrial buildings to mention. This is Sarval, near the sewage works. It's one of the UK's leading suppliers of high quality protein ingredients to the pet food market. It houses processing equipment for poultry products, and it's capable of handling in excess of 3,500 tonnes of poultry every week, and processing more than 200,000 tonnes of poultry byproducts every year. Sarval operates 4 plants in the UK, Widnes and Doncaster are 2 of the others. A bit further up the road is Teal Park, an industrial estate made up of 2 parts, one with 6 warehouses and the other with 14 flexible trade counter units. The park was developed by Warwickshire-based AC Lloyd Commercial and Nottingham-based Henry Davidson Developments. You'll find a branch of Bird's Bakery on here. Stoke Bardolph Parish also contains a brand new village, Rivendell, essentially a housing development which began being built in 2018. The first residents moved in March 2019. Now, if you think you've heard that name before, you might have if you're a fan of the Lord of the Rings novels. The author of the legendary stories, J.R.R. Tolkien, used to visit his aunt's farm in the Jessops Lane area of Gedling, around 2 miles from the development. Rivendell is named after the Elven realm in Middle-earth, a key location in the stories where the Fellowship of the Ring first meet. That's a group of 9 of the characters, including Frodo and Aragorn. The 135-acre site was previously owned by Severn Trent Water and Gedling Borough Council. A total of around 830 homes will be built on the site eventually, but a lot have already been built by Persimmon Homes. The development's first phase included a stylish collection of 2, 3, 4 and 5 bedroom homes to suit a range of budgets and lifestyles. Also already built is a school, the Rivendell Flying High Academy, which opened in 2022. It's a free school catering for around 110 boys and girls aged between 3 and 11. The school is a member of the Flying High Trust. A sports ground has been built next door, and so too has a raft of shops, including a brand new Aldi store and a small row of independent retailers. On top of all this, Rivendell also has access to the Netherfield Lagoons Nature Reserve at the end of Brambling Way, and that's where we're going to finish this episode off. The Netherfield lagoons are all that remain today of a once large industrial site. There are two massive pits known as the Slurry Lagoon and the Deep Pit, built in the 1960s. The former was used for the deposition of coal mining waste. Beyond them are two disused gravel pits with the River Trent beyond them. Now redeveloped, it's a haven for birdwatchers. Kingfishers, little egrets, grey wagtails, water rails and green sandpipers are among the many species found here. Rarities have also included the Siberian chiffchaff. Blimey, it's windy out here. It's not much better in this bird hide, quite frankly, because of the hole in the wood. I suppose it's still blowing through that and it's blowing me off my feet. That's been Rivendell, and with it, Stoke Bardolph, and I do hope you've enjoyed it. Folks, that's going to do us for Stoke Bardolph. Who would have thought a village based around something as bland and mundane as sewage would be so interesting? I'm willing to bet you're all going to be thinking about this place next time you flush, aren't you? That's something to ponder while you sit a while. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching this video, folks. Don't forget to like this episode if you haven't already. It really makes a difference with YouTube. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and give us a share too if you've got friends who'd like it. You can find all the links to my social media accounts below, as well as my Buy Me a Coffee page where you can donate to the channel. Also, if you've enjoyed this episode, have a look at some more videos in this series. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and I'm out.